Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Mia and here is our first video of our e-bike series. Coming up in the next couple months, we're also going to be rolling out 2 different bikes as well as the Santa Cruz Heckler, which is the one we're talking about today. So stay tuned for our reviews on the Specialized Levo SL and the Transition Relay Alloy version. But like I said, today we're here to talk about the gorgeous Santa Cruz Heckler SL. First, let's start off by listing some of my quick and dirty first impressions. Climbing, efficient. Descending, playful. Weight, what weight? I couldn't tell a weight on this bike. Motor, it was fast and the battery was capable. So here are some of the key geos that I think most women are looking for when it comes to looking for a bike. I'm 5'4.5", 5'5" I like to think. What I look for in a bike is the standover height, the reach, the wheelbase, and the dropper post. To start off with, the standover was pretty good. I had no issues at all. I was demoing the smaller frame, which made it quite capable for me to ride, although I did feel the small frame I was like on the cusp. I was on the cusp, sorry. It was a tad small. It was a tad like encroaching for me. I could have sized up to the medium and I think I would have had just as much fun on the bike. In terms of reach, it was a little bit short for me as the 5'5" rider, 5'4.5" rider, but you gotta keep in mind that you can always change that stem in the front to make the bike, the reach a little bit different for you if you want it more extended or a little bit closer to the cockpit. Now for the dropper post, for me, the travel on there was perfect. I didn't feel like it was a little bit high when I dropped it all the way down. There was no issues there. I know some smaller riders will have that issue, especially the riders within the 5 foot to 5'2" height. They're gonna find that a dropper post of 150 mil of travel is a little too high. You're gonna want something that's a little bit less in travel so that the dropper post can go all the way down inside that seat tube. Now, the Santa Cruz website states that the bike is an e-bike for everything. You can do quick laps, personal chairlifts, mid-weight or full power, all travels, all sizes. I personally found the statement to be very accurate. So let's expand on that a little bit. Quick laps on an e-bike for me is key. Being that I work full time, I run the network, and I have a myriad of other things going on in my life, like a lot of us do. Being able to get on an e-bike and do quick laps to practice, to tune something is absolutely key for me. So I found that this bike hit all of those criteria that Santa Cruz talks about. For the majority of the time, I did not use the motor on full power. I had it in the mid-weight category, which is, I would call it like your trail category. And that got me everywhere I needed to go. I will not lie though, I did put it in full boost when I wanted to go up some steep sections, because why not? You have an e-bike, right? You may as well use it for that reason.
The bike has 160 mil of travel in the front and 150 mil of travel in the rear.
Some consider that a trail bike. Personally, I think that's more of an enduro style bike. A trail bike for me would be 130 to 140. This bike, it is an all-rounder. You can take this everywhere. I ride in Southern California the majority of the time. There is some cross country, there is some techie steeps, and there's some techie descents. For the most part, everywhere I took this bike, it performed exceptionally well. Lastly, being that I am a smaller rider, the weight was not an issue for me at all. I didn't feel that the bike was going to wash out at any point, whether I was taking high berms, high corners, or on like your steepy little descents, if you know what I'm talking about. So let's talk about how this bike rides. The majority of the places that I ride are cross-country style, like I was just saying. Climbing on this bike was extraordinary. It's quick, it's maneuverable, it's responsive. I found it easy to move on steep uphills with roots and rocks with absolutely no issue, and with confidence, which is really important when you have a 40-something pound e-bike that you're riding. The descending was so much fun. I had so much fun descending on this bike. It's the first time I'm riding the VPP suspension, so for me, that was insane. Not once did I feel like this bike was an e-bike, either descending or climbing. I didn't feel the weight was a negative. Like a lot of people think the weight of an e-bike is gonna be a negative. Never did I feel that on the descent on this bike. And by that I mean, it didn't feel heavy, it wasn't weighing me down, or that I was scared that I was gonna wash out when I was cornering. It was quite the opposite. The bike was playful, it cornered well, it was easy to get off the ground, and it was solid on steep descents. So let's talk about the battery. The range on this bike, I had no issues with whatsoever. Being new to e-bikes, I didn't know how it was gonna work. I know it depends on how often you ride, how long you ride, what setting you have. The longevity of the bike depends on all of those factors and a couple more. I think weight does make a difference, but honestly, I'm 180 pounds with gear on, and I didn't really think it was gonna be that much of an issue. One of the key things I liked about the bike in regards to the battery is that it charged really quickly. And I ride an average of about 10 to 15 miles per ride. I didn't feel like I had to charge the bike every ride or every other ride. As a matter of fact, I think I kept the bike with no charge. I did 25 to 30 miles on it, and it was still pretty good. But again, it depends on the factor in which you are using the battery, whether you're using it in eco, trail, boost, whatever you want to call it, that all plays a key factor on how long the battery is going to last on your bike. Also, I did tow a couple people uphill while I was on the Heckler, and I didn't feel like that drained the battery too much either. But again, variables come into play with that, right? Like how heavy is the rider? How long are you towing them for? The steepness, etc. But honestly, I didn't think that was an issue at all. And as a matter of fact, my wife, who does not ride an e-bike, loved the fact that I could start towing her so we could get quicker laps in. It was amazing. The bike that we got to demo was the GX carbon frame. It's 160 in the front, it's 150 in the rear, it's mixed wheel, 29, 27 and a half, and it had the GX T-type transmission on the bike with SRAM brakes, really good combination. Going back to sizing, I demoed the size small, and I did feel like that was a little bit small for me as a 5'4.5", 5'5" rider. But honestly, bike sizing is completely personal preference. I know riders that are 5'6" and ride large frames, 5'7" and ride large frames. It really is dependent on how you feel on the bike. Some like a longer wheelbase for stability, others like a shorter wheelbase for nimbleness. It really comes down to how you're gonna ride your bike, where you're gonna ride it, and how you think it's gonna fit what you wanna do on the trail. You have to also learn to use the weight of the bike to your advantage as well, which makes you feel a little bit more stable. I love that about the e-bike. The fact that I was so confident that I was going to be planted on the ground because of the extra weight on the bike. I love that about the e-bike. The great thing about Santa Cruz's website is that it's very, very robust. They have chats for everything you can find on there. They also give you a pretty good idea if you're on the cusp which way you should size up or down. Although they do say something similar to what I was just saying, which is it's personal preference. You just kind of have to see if you can sit on the bike, see if you can demo it, and be able to gauge if you like the wheelbase, the reach, the standover, etc. As I mentioned earlier, this is the first time I'm riding the VPP suspension, which is a suspension platform that's proprietary to Santa Cruz. It was smooth. It was very different than other bikes that I'd ridden that have different suspension platforms. So I really felt it when I was going down steep descents. We got the chance to go ride with some of the Juliana Santa Cruz crew up in Santa Cruz. And I'm gonna tell you, that was my first time riding in Santa Cruz, and that's no joke. Santa Cruz riding is steep. The bike handled it so incredibly well. Anyway, I digress. The VPP suspension absolutely shined in that environment, and I think properly so. That's where Santa Cruz is based out of. That's where they demo all their bikes. That's not to say you can't take this bike on a cross-country trail or you just want to do some pedaling or uphills. I'm just saying that the VPP suspension absolutely shined on steep descents. Absolutely shined. In terms of geometry, one of the coolest things I noticed on this bike, and I'm gonna get some mixed comments about this, but I don't care. The bottom bracket on Santa Cruz bikes are so high, including the Heckler SL, that I felt so confident I could clear going over anything, or even like going under anything, not going under, going over or descending anything. Chunky rocks, chunky roots, no issues there whatsoever. The bottom brackets on these bikes can handle anything. So don't let that be a factor when you think of an e-bike. It has like a deep bottom bracket, you can't clear stuff. Not the case here with the Heckler SL. One minor detail, in my opinion, I have gotten spoiled in riding a couple other e-bikes that have, the little digital display on either the top tube or on the side of the handlebars. And this one being a Fazua motor, just like the Transition relay that we're gonna come out with soon, it doesn't have any visual displays in terms of numbers or it doesn't have any digital displays. It does have a visual of the different colors that you're on, so you know when you're riding the bike if you're on the white, the blue, the green, or the purple setting, which is very helpful. I just am a nerd when it comes to that stuff, and I love the visual of how much battery you have left, how fast you're going, your mileage, and all that kinds of good stuff. Although you can get the app with the Fazua ride motor information on there, and you can track all of that data as well on that app. When I demoed it, I couldn't really download it because it just wasn't working for me for some reason. But I have seen other reviews online that show how robust that app is, and it's actually really good. It gives you the lifetime of the battery, it gives you how long you have on there, you can adjust the settings. So do check that out if you have the opportunity to, because even though you may not have the display on the bike, you still have robust features you can use to see how the bike is doing and performing. What would I change on this bike? The one thing I will change on this bike is the saddle. And saddle, like a bike size, is personal preference. For women, I have found we need a wider saddle base. Personally for me, I have wider sit bones. I need a wider saddle. The one that it came with, it was a WTB, I think. Not the best. For me, as a bigger rider, in terms of weight, I would definitely choose a saddle with wider sit bones. And actually the saddle I have on two of my personal bikes right now, I love them so much, I don't even wear a chamois with it. Whereas in the past, I would wear a chamois with everything. That will be coming up. Overall, the bike is lightweight, it's powerful, the range is absolutely great, and on the trail with this motor, it performs really well. It is an all-round e-bike that I felt comfortable taking anywhere. I didn't get a chance to take it to a bike park because it was winter here in California, everything was closed. I'd love to demo it at a park. It would shine on a bike park just as it did in my cross-country trail, on Santa Cruz steeps, and everywhere else you want to take this bike. Highly recommend it. If you have a chance to ride it, send us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you own the bike, comment below. Let us know your thoughts on that. Overall, the bike was just fun. It's just like riding another Santa Cruz bike with just a little bit of power.
The Santa Cruz Heckler SL is a fully carbon e-bike, and in the small size, it weighs in at 42.5 pounds. It has 27.5-inch wheels in the back and 29-inch wheels in the front. The bike has 160 mil of travel in the front and 150 mil of travel in the rear. With a reach of 435 millimeters, standover height of 720 millimeters, a wheelbase of 1209, with a head tube angle of 64.3, with a bottom bracket height of 344 millimeters. Topping this beauty off with the Fazua Ride 60 motor, where you get 430 watt battery with enough torque for any adventure. This progressive geometry makes the Heckler a natural handling trail bike with the added power of an e-bike.